And welcome to the Hong Kong Academy Early Childhood Admissions Information Events. My name is Walter Jennings. I'm a parent here at Hong Kong Academy, and I'm joined by Virginia Hunt.
And I'm also a parent here at Hong Kong Academy.
And Virginia, you're going to talk to us today about early childhood learning and Hong Kong Academy. We're doing this via Facebook Live, which is somewhat new for us because of the isolation restrictions and the preference not to host in-person events. But you would normally do a conversation like this with interested parents once a month at least?
Yes. And whilst it's always lovely to have parents on campus and to have that face-to-face interaction, when admissions approached me and said that they were interested in doing a Facebook Live with Walter, I thought, wow, what, again, an opportunity for new learnings and new opportunities, and how exciting is it for me to be doing something with you that I typically wouldn't be doing?
No, and it shows the adaptability and flexibility that's been a hallmark of Hong Kong Academy, which is making lemonade out of the situation and trying still to connect with interested parents, because early childhood is really a very important time for education, and it's a hallmark at Hong Kong Academy. So what we're going to do today is Virginia and I will have a dialogue. We'll talk through much about Hong Kong Academy's unique and fantastic early childhood program, and then we'll try to answer as many of your questions as possible. We do have typical questions that we get, and please, if you're watching this on live, pop them in. We'll try to answer as many as we can. And so we're going to paint a broad picture of the early childhood program, and we will ask you, if you have additional questions, follow up. Look at our website. Admissions is always ready to help you, or ping a note in this Facebook Live, and we'll get back to you. But why don't we begin? Maybe you can help us by introducing Hong Kong Academy.
Sure, and I think one of my favorite ways to introduce Hong Kong Academy is how I came to Hong Kong Academy as both a parent and an educator. My husband and I gave birth to our kids in the Middle East, and after being there for about 11 years, when our children were 4 and 8, we decided that we wanted to set our sights on another part of the world. And my husband first initially came to Hong Kong Academy. And it was really wonderful, my husband not being an educator, when he came home and he said, I see the school that our children will be in the hallways. And it meant so much to me that he understood what was so important to me and what was really at the root of good education. And so we set our sights for Hong Kong Academy. We joined the school in 2006. The school was originally founded in 2000. My daughter currently is a junior in college in the United States. And after coming through Hong Kong Academy, she's majoring in economics with a minor in Chinese and political science. And my son is still here at Hong Kong Academy. He's a junior and really, truly enjoying not just the Global Citizens Diploma opportunity, but also all the sports that Hong Kong Academy has to offer. So it was a very big decision for us as a family, both for me as an educator and for us as parents, bringing our children to Hong Kong Academy.
Well, we missed the early childhood. We moved up from Sydney, Australia, when our son was in the second grade, and he is now in his second year of high school, and he loves the diversity because he's good at maths and English and mama ho-ho at Mandarin, but also phenomenal at sports, and it's nice to have our two children be good friends.
Yes,
so,
it certainly is.
Tell me about the history and the founding principles of Hong
Sure.
Kong Academy.
Yeah, I think, Hong Kong Academy was founded by two visionaries who were both, interestingly enough, native New Yorkers like myself, and they wanted something different for students in Hong Kong, and they recognized that there were many schools in Hong Kong that serviced a range of different nationalities, a range of different cultures. So there's the American school and the Canadian school and the German Swiss school and the Australian school, and they really wanted to create something that would replicate the world children were going to grow into. And so they wanted children to have an authentic experience. And in doing so, they developed a school that would open its doors to all nationalities, all family structures, all different types of learning abilities. And in doing so, they had some very core values that are very much true today. As I glance at our mission, a school that lives its mission, this is still very much a part of our philosophy today. And that was really this idea of this dynamic learning community. And we wanted something that would allow children to learn not just in an authentic situation, but also help them to truly come to understand themselves as learners. And so that's kind of where the IB came in terms of really selecting the IB, because we really felt that it was the best of international education. In addition to that, we felt very strongly about providing this captivating learning environment and where the community would be very much part of the school, as well as an opportunity for children to work with a range of students, so learn collaboratively in one classroom. So in our school, we welcome all students. We feel that everyone is growing, everyone is learning, and we think that there's so much strength in children being in an environment of difference. Another area that's always been very important to both the founders and ourselves is Hong Kong Academy being an educational leader, because we believe that everyone is a learner, and that's whether you work in an office at our school or you're the head of the school. We ensure that everyone, from students to parents to the employees of Hong Kong Academy, are growing and learning. To this end, we're so committed that on Wednesdays, our children have a half day of school where they have an opportunity to pursue some of their interests outside of school, but we, as a faculty, stay and we dig deep. We do our own professional development, we talk about the important work that children are doing, because we know how important it is for the teachers of students to be lifelong learners.
Well, one of the points you mentioned earlier in our talk before this was educating the whole child and the inquiry-based learning. I'm not an educator, so help me understand that a bit better.
Sure. I think, sometimes when we think of education, we look through it through a single lens. And here at Hong Kong Academy, we look at it through a very broad lens. We look at the child both cognitively, physically, socially, emotionally, as well as aesthetic. The arts are very important to us, and we see the importance in child development on the arts. When we think of inquiry, one of the ways that I like to describe inquiry is similar to what everyone's going through right now. So if you think about it, you're all on an inquiry cycle right now because you are thinking about where to send your child to school next. And what we know is that you have experience with schools because you went to school yourself. You might have friends or other family members that have children who've gone through school. So you're coming to it with some experience, some previous knowledge. And whilst you're doing that, you're going out and you're exploring in your natural and social world. So you're visiting schools or you're tuning into a Facebook Live. And you're exploring, you're discovering, you're asking questions. You're also interacting with others because you're listening to other people ask questions. You might even think, hey, that was a really good question. I'm going to ask that next time. You are gaining knowledge. And this very similarly happens for students. They explore their world, they ask questions, they wonder. And as they do that, they gain this knowledge. And as they acquire this knowledge, they have to analyze it, they have to sort it, they have to synthesize it, organize it. And once they do that, they have an opportunity to reflect on it. So what? So what have I learned now? And that's your so what. You're going to, after you've organized all this new knowledge that you've gained, you're going to select a school, you're going to take action. You're going to change your behavior. And that's what happens to children when they go through an inquiry circle. They've built on their previous knowledge, they've gained new knowledge, they've asked questions, they've reflected, and they take action.
And what I've loved watching with my son is the portfolio of experiences he's had and the different subjects he's taken a passion in. He's a young mathematical sportsman who also likes drama. So, they're getting a range of exposure to a wide different subject matters. Within that, can you tell me a little bit more about curriculum and programming, and particularly in early childhood?
Sure. And, when we look at the program in the primary years program, which is the PYP of the primary school, in addition to these units of inquiry where children are discovering about their world, we also offer a very strong literacy foundation. And we feel that a strong foundation is very important to a child's development. And so everything we do is very much developmentally appropriate. And I often say to parents, I can guarantee you that your child is going to learn to read. But what I can't guarantee you is that your child's going to love to read. And that's the hard part. Because what we want is we want to raise lifelong readers. And so what we do is we make sure that children have a very strong foundation and that they're immersed in real, rich literature. That's the hook, that they love books, that they want to be part of books. So we're not a school that's going to throw flashcards up in front of 3- and 4-year-olds. We really feel that it's important that they see the connection and the relevance of the literacy that they are reading. We immerse them in a print-rich environment. We have them play with language. We have them use language, whether it's listening to a story or responding to a question from a teacher, or it's looking at the drawings and the way that they make sense of their writing. When children start to write, drawings is their first writing. It's also a way that they convey meaning. But what's important for children is to understand that when you write, you're writing for an audience and for a purpose. And so it's very much a meaningful and relevant experience for children. When we look at our mathematics program, we offer a resource-based mathematics programs. So sometimes you might hear of schools who subscribe to a commercial product. And what we decided about 10 years ago was that whilst there are many good products out there, what teachers really wanted to be able to do was to be able to take the best of all of them. And so here at our school, we have a math lab where we keep thousands of resources for our teachers. And so our teachers know what they need to teach because we have standards and benchmarks in every grade level and every subject area. But what they use is a range of resources. So they don't limit themselves to one resource. I think another area that I really enjoy talking about because of the wonderful evolution here at Hong Kong Academy is our Mandarin program.
Yeah, the Mandarin program was a key draw for us, especially being here within China and so close to the mainland. So it's very important.
Yes, and we put a lot of thought and care in it. And we thought about young learners and how they develop and the importance of them hearing the language and being exposed to the tones. And so in our PreK, which is our 3- to 5-year-old program, you'll find that the teachers in the classroom, one teacher is a native English speaker and one teacher is a native Mandarin teacher. Now, both of these teachers are early childhood teachers, and whilst the language of instruction here is English, we offer very much a mirror program. So what will happen is when a teacher's speaking in English, it's being reinforced and said to the students again in Mandarin. When a teacher introduces a concept in English, when the children go off and explore or apply the knowledge that they just learned, it's being reinforced in Mandarin. So the teacher working at the table maybe on patterns or counting is reinforcing that in Mandarin. So the children are exposed all day long to English and Mandarin. And it's a very, very strong model. As our children move through the school, and once they get into kindergarten, it becomes a standalone subject. And so children have about 200 minutes a week of Mandarin where they have direct instruction on the acquisition of Mandarin. However, since we value that model of the teacher and the English teacher and the Mandarin teacher, what we have implemented in the primary school as they move through K to grade 5 is that there is an additional Mandarin teacher, a co-teacher, who comes into their general ed classroom and is there, again, mirror languaging with the students. Sometimes when they go to an engagement like bookmaking, there will be a Mandarin teacher at the table teaching them that Mandarin. Sometimes when they're in PE, there's a Mandarin teacher supporting the PE teacher. So we're really ensuring that our children, again, are immersed in the language, but also having opportunities to use the language. It's very important when a child is learning an additional language that they have an opportunity to use it, see the relevance of it, see the functionality of it, and have an opportunity to practice it. Another piece that we have in place for the students is we have a wonderful group of parents who come in on Fridays, and they run what we call Panda Club. And it's a whole host of different engagements children get to do in Mandarin. And the only requirement is that when you're at Panda Club that you are speaking and using your Mandarin language. In addition to that, we also offer a role play center for our students because we know that it's important for them to use Mandarin in their everyday life. So sometimes it's set up as a library or a shopping center or a playground. And again, children are being able to use their Mandarin language in a very authentic way.
It does help them later. My son, having entered here at the second grade, when he was in high school, had an opportunity with the school to travel in China and immerse himself with village life and really be forced to use his language, which, if you know 16-year-old boys, it's not their preference to speak in a foreign language. But it is language, it is culture, it is life, so it really is strong. I had one question we'd had from a parent earlier. If my child arrives with really strong Mandarin, will it be maintained?
Yes. It's a great question, Walter. You know, our goal is always to meet every student where they are and continue to stretch them. We really differentiate our programs for our students. So, you know, we have had, you know, children who are very new to the language and children who come in with quite a range of experience. And we kind of really move them into more project-based learning and really individualize the program for them, giving them opportunities to ensure that they continue to grow and be challenged.
I know you've also been very accommodating for children who arrive from overseas who may not have a strong grasp of English or have never studied Mandarin. So I find the school's been very responsive to the individual child's levels and needs.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that it's really important, one, that children feel very comfortable in their learning and successful as well. And so again, if you're new to English or you're new to Mandarin, we really make sure that you feel comfortable, you feel celebrated, but that you're also continuing to grow and learn in that area.
Now, I'd like to personally invite anyone watching this to please come out and visit our campus here in Sai Kung. It's really quite extraordinary. If you've not been to Sai Kung, it's a fairly remote fishing village in the northeast of Hong Kong. And this campus was built about 6 years ago. It's very spectacular, overlooking the sea, with a great range of resources. But we're here in an early childhood center. Tell me about class life.
Sure. And I think, you know, I appreciate you wanting people to come to see the school because we are so proud of it and we feel it's so special. You know, it is a purpose-built school and so much thought and care went into it. As, you know, you look out at the playscapes here, you know, this was a project that took us almost 3 years to initiate the organic gardens, the sand pits, the mud kitchen, the opportunities for climbing, the water play. You know, it's been a very, very thoughtful experience. And we're here in the beautiful Playgroup space. And, you know, again, every inch of the school, so much care and thought went into the purpose and the functionality of it. And so when I think about class life and as we move through the school, something that's always been very important to us was that children had a range of experiences. And one of the things that ensures us that kids have a range of experiences, we have a two-teacher model. So I spoke a little bit about how in Playgroup and PreK there's a Mandarin teacher and an English teacher. As students move through the school, from K to grade 5, there will be 2 teachers in the classroom. And the first teacher is a lead teacher, a master teacher, but also often has a master's degree and years of experience in the primary years program. The second teacher that we have in the classroom is the teacher we're growing. So that's often a teacher who has done their practicum, they have their degree, but they don't have that years of experience. So again, it's an opportunity for us to show ourselves as an educational leader as we're developing the future teachers of tomorrow. In addition to that, we feel class size is important to us. We want a class size that allows for appropriate socialization, but also provides individual attention to each student. So in our younger grade levels, in our pre-K and our playgroup, our class sizes range between 15 and 18. And in our primary school, K to grade 5, our class sizes are about 22 to 24. Now, as we move into the full-day program, our children stay on campus, they have lunch on campus. We are so fortunate, we're one of the few schools that has our very own chef. Because just like everything we do, we felt that we want to take the best care of our students, and nourishing them is so important. And so about 5 years ago, we brought in our own chef because we felt that was so important, that we would be able to have input in what we were serving kids. So like in our early childhood, everything we serve is family style to the students because we really want to develop their palates. We want them to take risk and to try things, but we also recognize that children are much more eager to try things if their peers are trying it. Also, if that's what's on offer. And so kids are discovering with each other and with their teachers their own little palates.
It's amazing. And in fact, when my son was in the second grade, there were the two teachers, but also then one child had additional learning support needs. And that learning support teacher was there, but also interacting with everyone else. And it helped my son to see children at all different levels working together as one group.
Yeah, Walter, thanks so much for mentioning that mutual benefit, because that is so important. One of the things that we know as a school is we have seen the power and beauty of inclusion. We have seen the benefits of having children with learning differences. Because here at Hong Kong Academy, we really believe every child has gifts, and that's our job, to make sure that we bring every child to their potential. So when a child comes to the school with learning differences, we really make sure that they are supported. So sometimes schools will have children with learning differences, but they'll have them in a separate group. And we think it's so important that they are in the classroom, integrated, authentic, and learning. So we have to make sure that they're supported and that they will be successful. So often we bring in additional staffing to support them, and that's what you're talking a little bit about. That third teacher was the one-to-one inclusion teacher. Because they're there not only to support that child with learning differences, but they're to support all the children, because all teachers teach all children. So it's very much an inclusive but integrated model.
But it also helped my son appreciate and understand the differences in a community. When we were out in public in a restaurant and there were children with learning differences, my son just saw them as other kids. So, it helps them adapt. We also have co-curricular. Can you talk to me through that?
Yeah. And, when we think of educating that whole child, we have additional classes that we call specialist classes. And that's like our physical education, our information communication technology, as well as our library, which is fully integrated. That's about, teaching children technical skills, but also research skills, along with their inquiry. We also offer visual arts, as well as music. In our music program, it's a choral program in the younger years where children explore percussion instruments. And then parents always love the year of the recorder. And that's grade 3. But that sets a great foundation for them to move into our mandatory instrumental music program. We really believe that every child should have that opportunity to experience playing an instrument. So we have grade 4 and grade 5 bands, and children have an opportunity to select from both percussion and woodwind.
Look, the link between maths, languages, and music has been proven again and again, and there's new ways of learning different styles. So it's been very beneficial. But it doesn't end here. You also have ASAs, or after-school activities.
Right. And, again, we believe that it's really important for children to have an opportunity to apply all their learning. Sometimes when we think about our students, or children, they're so directed. They're being directed by their teachers, they're being directed by their parents, they're being asked to do different things. And the after-school activities really gives them choice. And it gives them an opportunity to, whether they're very interested in continuing with one of the arts, or if they'd like to do something more physical and participate in a sport, or further pursue a language, even beyond Mandarin. So, of course, we offer Mandarin lessons, but some of our families take French and Japanese, as well as opportunities to dig deeper into the curriculum. So we have a bookmaking club, we have a math Olympiad club, we have about almost close to 80 things on offer for our students Monday through Thursday. But again, this gives kids choice and voice and agency in choosing what they would like to pursue outside of school. And one of the things that we think is so important in our after-school activities is, whilst we have a pretty good idea of what kids typically enjoy doing, we're also very open to supporting a child's interest. So if a child comes and asks, I would like to start a mosaic club, we often say, as long as we can get critical mass, and here critical mass is anywhere between 3 to 5 students, as well as resource the teacher, we're going to go with it. And you know, often children will, again, take agency and initiate supporting the development of these programs.
No, just a side question, Virginia. If I'm not from Sai Kung and my child's involved in ASA, tell me about transportation during the school day and after school as well.
Sure. So we're very pleased to be able to offer a bus service for families all over Hong Kong. Our goal is always, regardless of where you live, to get you to school in under 60 minutes. And, you know, I'm talking about our kids that are up on the peak. Many of our children come in a much smaller time frame. We also want to ensure that we can support our families getting home after school activities. So from kindergarten to grade 5, we have an after school bus. Because of the timing, we're not able to provide an after-school bus for our pre-K students, who will often also participate in our after-school activities. But their after-school activities start a lot earlier because they finish their school day at 12:30.
Right, so no matter where you are in Hong Kong, there's a way using the Hong Kong Academy bus service to get to and from school.
Yes, and you know, we're so pleased with the partnership we have with our bus company. They've been fantastic, and we work very closely with our bus mothers. We do 3 trainings a year with our bus mothers to ensure that they are supported and they know how to, you know, work with whether it's young children or the other children, you know. And I love I often call it the magic school bus, because we have a range of kids on the bus, and it's really beautiful, rich learning that's happening authentically. You know, often I say to kids, you know, character is who you are on the bus when no one's watching, and how you behave and how you support each other.
Now, let's dive right into the structure of the early childhood program. Walk me through. I think we begin at Playgroup and then PreK, or
Sure.
Help me understand those, because
Sure,
that was
sure.
before I arrived.
Yeah. Sure. So yeah, about 2 years ago, we introduced Playgroup. And Playgroup is both for accompanied children and unaccompanied children. So when children are 2, we invite them in to come accompanied, because we feel that not only is the education of our youngest learners so important, but the education of the adults that work with the children is also important. And we're here in the beautiful Playgroup classroom, where the philosophy is very much about waiting, watching, and wondering. And that really allows us to make it child-led. So we're having the child lead us through their exploration and their discovery. I think so often people, well-intentionally, try to impose learning on young children. And if they just step back and pause, they have a lot to learn and discover from watching children explore and discover the world around them. So it starts out as accompanied for our 2-year-olds. As our 2-year-olds move into being 3-year-olds, we start to gradually pull back the adults that support them as we prepare them for school life. So children can come to our Playgroup unaccompanied once they turn 3. And again, we do a blended model, so they are supported by the wonderful, rich team of teachers we have, as well as some of the other adults that are there for the accompanied program. And that's a 2-hour program. So, and children have an opportunity to come 3 days a week, 2 days a week, or 5 days a week, depending on what's going to meet the needs of the family best. And then
That leads us to PreK.
Yeah, our PreK program, which is our 3 to 5-year-old program. So this is what we call a composite program. So it's not 3-year-olds turning 4, it's not 4-year-olds turning 5, but it's a mixture of 3 to 5-year-olds. And what this gives us is really an opportunity for children to have that developmental range. And what we know when children are young is a very, very wide range of learning. But what's important is that all children have an entry point with peers, and that all children have an entry point with materials and learning engagements. And so sometimes we can have a 3-year-old who is functioning at a much higher chronological level or developmental level. And sometimes we have an older student who just needs a little more time. So it's really lovely to have that range. It also allows every child to have that experience of leading and following. Because sometimes when you're in a single age range at a very young age, you're often, if you may not have had the opportunity to ever lead, because you're always the follower. But with this age range, at some point over your course of time in the PreK program, you are a leader with the students. And one of the things that we also have discovered about our composite program is that the students really support each other. So on that first day of school, that child who's having separation, one of the older students will come in and throw an arm around them and say, I got this. I was you last year, and I'm on this. And that means so much more than a teacher or an adult telling them, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, because that connection they have with their peers and that trust they have with their peers, like, oh yeah, you know what this is like. You've been through this. It's really quite magical to watch that interaction and that engagement.
It really is, as a side note, just a secret sauce in Hong Kong Academy, which is the community, and that extends through every age group.
Yeah.
I see it all the way through high school, the way the kids support each other, look after each other, and cross grades. They'll have buddies in younger grades,
Sure.
buddies in older grades, and it's a wonderful network.
You're so right, Walter. I mean, community is so important to us, not just our school community, but the larger community. One of the things that we really emphasize with students is who they are, but also their role and responsibility in the world, and the importance of them knowing that. And so that's where so many of our wonderful service programs come in. And whether that's service to your class, or service to your school, or service to your neighborhood, or the larger regional global community.
Now, we talked pre-K. Sorry. Now, what about kindergarten and grade 1?
Sure. So our kindergarten grade 1, that's where the children move into the full day program. So here it's a longer day, it's longer specialist time. So those co-curriculars that we talked about, those, even though they have them in pre-K, sometimes now they're going twice a week to those. They're for a longer period of time. So it's really developing their stamina as well as developing them. So, our kindergarten grade 1, those are the big literacy years, the reading and writing years. We have the standalone Mandarin program, as well as the co-teachers who are coming in and, again, still infusing and enhancing the Mandarin learning. So, again, the children what we do is very much developmentally keep extending and growing the program to meet their needs, as well as what they're ready for.
Now, some of the parents are watching this not from the comfort of a house in Hong Kong, but they might be in the U.S. or Europe, and they may be looking at coming to Hong Kong for a year or 5 years, and they're wondering about how a Hong Kong Academy education integrates if they were to be posted back to the U.S. or returned to Europe. How does it fit in?
Sure, that's a really great question, because that is often at the forefront of a family that's moving abroad, and how will they integrate back into our national system. So we follow Common Core state standards. So we set we follow a national set of standards and benchmarks, which, whether you're transferring to a school in Europe or Australia or America, there's a lot of similarity in those standards. So that's really at the core and the base of what we teach. We also offer this conceptually driven program, so we are teaching children how to access knowledge.
Yeah.
We're not just teaching them content. The content comes because of their interest and the relevance, but what we're teaching them is how to learn, and how to think, and how to analyze, and how to inquire and discover. And those are tools that can be generalized and applied in any setting.
I think it's really important nowadays when you have your child asking you, what's the source of your research? And is that valid news? When your kid is throwing hashtag fake news at you, you feel you've got a lot to learn. You mentioned earlier that this is an IB school, or an International Baccalaureate School, which was new to me as an American Australian. But it's got a few options. So how does Hong Kong Academy in the early years set you up for later learning?
Sure. And I think that, what the International Baccalaureate Organization kind of got together, and they looked at the best of international education, and they tried to come up with something that would streamline children through their education. So I think it's this idea of having a framework and really allowing schools to develop a program that best meets the needs of their population and their organization, as well as what is best practice. And so whilst the primary years program is very much conceptual, it's very much inquiry, as is the middle years program. Middle years program, again, teaches children about approaches to learning, management skills, time management skills, social skills, research skills, collaborative skills. that then sets them up for the diploma program, which is, always, it's the rigorous and international program, and that's where kids dive deeply into that content that allows them that next step in their education as they move on to college and university. Really sets a wonderful foundation for them. Watching my own daughter enter college, so prepared, already receiving 12 credits from her International Baccalaureate Diploma, moving into third-year Chinese after coming through the Mandarin program here and not a native Mandarin speaker, really setting this wonderful foundation, opening doors, giving opportunities for them. I think another area that really sets us apart is this Global Citizens Diploma that allows children not only for themselves to see themselves as more than a number, because often when we look at children coming through a secondary school, we're looking at scores and numbers, but this really defines them about what's important to them. What passion do they have about the world that they are growing into, and what responsibility do they have to that world in terms of service and giving back and being aware of some of the challenges going on in the world now.
What I've liked witnessing is how each of the years build up and up and up. So my son can and would be very comfortable trying for the International Baccalaureate or a U.S. high school diploma or others. They have, as you get further along, pathways to individual excellence, and you find the route out of the school that best suits you and your needs. So everything from the early childhood feeds in magically all the way through to the high school.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right, and that's in our mission, these pathways to individual education, because what we want is we want children to know who they are as learners, what are they passionate about, what's important to them. Because we know that if a child's passionate about something, they will be a lifelong learner. They will make a difference in the world if they're pursuing their bliss and their dreams. And so we really want children to be able to make that choice, to be able to articulate what that choice is and where they will go. And a goal for us is always for our students to go to their very first choice.
Yeah. Now, Virginia, you and I are speaking with fairly strong American accents. Tell me about the nationalities represented here at Hong Kong Academy.
Sure, great. Yeah, I think we're really proud that we have over 50 nationalities here at Hong Kong Academy. And one of the ways that we ensure that happens is that we have a waiting pool. So sometimes schools have a waiting list, but we have a waiting pool where we really ensure that we get that rich, wonderful diversity that we are committed to, having a captivating learning environment. And so when students come in, we look at that balance in the classroom. Of course, we're always looking at gender balance, but we're also looking at that nationality balance as well. And so we ensure that no group really surpasses more than 25%.
Yes, and I know that when we have our community food festival, there are representatives, parents bring foods from their native countries, and we have so many nationalities represented. It's really a phenomenal smorgasbord of the world.
Yeah, and it's also a great day where we celebrate each other, we celebrate our uniqueness, we celebrate our differences, but also our similarities. And often in those wonderful culinary delights, we discover the similarities. Yeah. I always love the Australian barbecue.
Yeah. Well, and the Canadian table next to the American table, and the Philippine table, and all of the Brazilian food, all of these wonderful. And we have that same kind of eclectic mix of nationalities at the teaching level.
Absolutely, because that is so much a part of our mission, having a captivating learning environment. So we model that with our teachers. So our teachers also come from all over the world. They'll come from North America and Europe and Australia, UK, so really a really nice range. And then, of course, our Asian population always have presence. So we have about 22 nationalities in our teaching faculty.
Now, it's not all fun and games. Tell me about assessments and homework and quizzes and how you keep track of the children's progress.
Yeah, and I think what's important is that when we assess a child's learning, it's important that it's developmental for that child. So we are pre-assessing children, so as we're getting ready to teach them, we're having a good understanding of where they are. We're not going to teach them something they already know. We want to make sure that we know exactly where they are and that we're moving them on along there. As they're learning and how they're being exposed to new opportunities, we're doing formative assessment. So we're ensuring that as they're moving along, that we are ensuring that they are understanding what they are doing. And then at the end, there will be a culmination and a summative assessment where a child shows their knowledge. And that can come in many forms. So we'll give children many different opportunities to show their learning. And sometimes it can be through a paper and pencil task. It can be through a writing assignment, but it could also be through a skit. It could be through GarageBand or using some other technology that they might want to use. And often one of the things that helps students in really celebrating this culmination is we'll have what we call a mini exhibition. And so the children will have on display their work, and they'll show their work through the arts. They might even show it through some music. They could even show it through movement. They'll show it through a piece of poetry that they have written. So it's a wonderful celebration for children to show their knowledge in many different mediums, as well as giving teachers many different ways to assess children and their understanding.
Well, and I also know the coffee houses are quite popular, where the children will get together and perform after school, and they're playing to a kid-rich audience, but trialing original music, plays, skits, all of this. It's a really eclectic learning environment.
For sure, and I think what's important is we encourage children to pursue their interests outside of the classroom. And some of those things that you see those are the things that children are rehearsing and practicing outside of the school day.
Now, Virginia, we're not going to have time in this Facebook Live to get into details such as finance, age cutoffs. I would encourage you to contact admissions. It varies so dramatically. But before we wrap up, tell me, what would a new family expect if they were to come here and visit you, and what would that kind of experience look like?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we like to do is we like to get to know our families, because we want to make sure that they're a good match for our school and that we will be a good match for them. So we feel it's really important that we take them through our hallways and that they have an opportunity to see our children in action, to visit our beautiful environments, to speak with the leaders in the school, and to get a good sense of who we are philosophically as well as our pedagogy and our approach to a child development, play-based, conceptually driven environment. And so, I think people would feel really welcome. I think that they would see a lot of joy. I think they would see the warmth. I think they would see a tremendous amount of commitment and professionalism from the teachers. And then I think that they would also find that the whole process was made very easy by our amazing admissions team, who really, are there for our parents step by step. And that's like from the minute you apply to you're touring the school to once you get into the school, and really orientating, bringing them in, connecting them with a buddy family.
Yeah, no, the buddy families are great. We had one and we've become one, and those are for families who are further away and may not find it easy to come to the campus. And so this is just a family with a similar age child who can kind of answer the day in, day out questions that the admissions may not think of. So, well, Virginia, any closing comments? What are you looking forward to in terms of new children coming on board? Tell me some of the kind of the.
Yeah, and I guess what I always look forward to is that every child has gifts to offer, and it's always so wonderful and exciting for us to embrace that, because we have so many wonderful, unique children here, and so that opportunity to bring the two together, and we really love bringing the two together and transitioning students and having them come in to the community. I think that, for me as a parent, Hong Kong Academy was a very special experience for my children, and I wish that for everyone.
Yeah, and I have to agree. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sorry we weren't able to do this face-to-face with all the parents that are interested, but we encourage you to come out to Sai Kung, meet with Virginia, meet with families, and tour our phenomenal school. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Walter. This was so lovely of you to give us your time and to be part of this. I really enjoyed myself.
Happy family.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.